It's easy to forget just how absurdly massive Resident Evil has become. Decades of sequels, remakes, films, novels, merchandise, you name it. This series has done it. Capcom's crown jewel now sits comfortably at well over 100 million copies sold, and the brand has long since escaped the confines of gaming. But none of that matters without the origin point. Before genre labels, before endless debates about action versus horror, before zombies reclaimed pop culture dominance, there was a risky, messy experiment that changed everything. The foundations of Resident Evil trace back to producer Takuro Fujiwara, who envisioned the project as a spiritual successor to his earlier horror title, Sweet Home. Development duties eventually landed with Shinji Mikami, and what followed was anything but smooth. Early work on the game began in the early 90s on the Super Nintendo, before ballooning ambitions and the promise of 3D technology forced the move to Sony's upcoming PlayStation hardware. At one point, the game was even shaping up as a first-person shooter, an idea that quickly collapsed under technical limitations. Rather than fight the hardware head-on, the team pivoted. The now iconic solution, fully 3D characters layered over pre-rendered backgrounds, wasn't a stylistic choice so much as a necessary compromise, and yet it's precisely those compromises that ended up defining the game's identity. Draw animations masked loading times, static camera angles reduced processing strain, rooms were segmented into vertical layers because the memory simply wouldn't allow more. Constraints dictated design, and in doing so created something truly unforgettable. This is why the PlayStation era remains so special to me. Developers weren't just learning how to make 3D games, they were inventing a language from scratch. Every limitation forced creativity, every workaround added personality. You can feel that experimentation in Resident Evil's architecture, its pacing, even its fear. Strip away those restrictions and the game becomes something else entirely. The tension lives in what the systems couldn't do. My introduction to this game came in the early 2000s when I was going through a box of my father's old games when suddenly I came across this one, and at one glance, that haunted, strained face staring back at me was enough to make me go, I need to try this. Back in those days, age ratings were very much ignored, and the 9-year-old me was ready to jump into this game that I didn't realize I'd carry with me for years. Now, coming back to this game so many years later, my goal was simple. Figure out what works, what doesn't, and if Resident Evil holds up in a modern context. Breaking all these things down, narrative, mechanics, presentation, felt like the only fair way to tackle it. Now, narratively, the setup is amazing. A Special Forces unit investigates a series of brutal murders outside of Raccoon City, only for half the team to vanish without explanation. A mysterious mansion becomes a refuge, then transforms into a prison. Umbrella Corporation lurks in the background, bioweapon experiments slowly surface, and betrayal creeps in from within the ranks of STARS itself. It's not complex, but it doesn't really need to be. What surprised me the most revisiting the original was just how restrained all the lore actually is, compared to the remake later on, which we will talk about, which expands the mansion's history through dozens of documents. The 1996 version offers only the bare essentials, a handful of files, sparse diary entries, enough to make you understand the outbreak and witness the human cost, but not much more. In hindsight, it makes the remake's expanded storytelling feel far more impressive than the original's restraint, but it works in its favor. It let atmosphere do all the heavy lifting, but the gameplay is where Resident Evil truly earns its legacy. The fixed camera angles, tank controls, limited inventory, these aren't relics, they're intentional barriers. Movement is awkward by design, combat is risky but necessary. Every hallway feels hostile because you're never fully in control. The camera hides threats, the controls demand commitment, and inventory management forces those super hard decisions that you wouldn't have to make otherwise. Ammo itself is very scarce, healing items are incredibly precious, and savings costs resources. You're constantly weighing the risk against survival. Do you clear a room, or should I avoid this room entirely? Do I bring an extra herb, or should I gamble on finding what I need later on? These systems slow the player down, and in doing so, build unbearable tension. Even knowing the game inside and out does not erase that dread. If anything, a lot of the time, it intensifies it. For this review, I opted to jump into the director's cut. It was released in 1997 and introduces the auto-aim to the Western versions, an on a mission from the original, but more importantly, additional difficulty modes alongside a standard experience in an advanced setting that fundamentally reshaped the game. Enemy placements changed, resources are cut, routes that you thought you knew have now become death traps. Playing the advanced mode of this game was humbling. Zombies refused to go down, hunters were pure terror, encounters I once breezed through because I knew them backwards and forwards became walls I had to smash against repeatedly. I broke habits I'd built up over many, many playthroughs, burning through high-powered weapons just to survive. And weirdly, that struggle was amazing. It was exhilarating, it forced me to adapt, it forced me to change, and it forced me to respect everything that was going on. It's baffling that the design philosophy hasn't become standard. Giving veteran players a version of a game that actively undermines their knowledge adds enormous replay value. It transforms fundamentally into danger again. Few entries in the series have embraced this idea so fully since, and I'd be surprised if anybody does again. Presentation remains exceptional. The soundtrack is masterful, shifting emotionlessly from quiet dread to adrenaline-pumping momentum. The sound design, iconic. Every footstep, gunshot, and menu click etched into my memory. And yes, the voice acting is famously terrible. And let us not even talk about the live action opening to the game, which I have to say is still masterful to this day. I love it. Revisiting Resident Evil was more than a nostalgia trip for me in the lead up to Resident Evil 9. It was a reminder of how deliberate design can elevate limitations into strengths. It reinforced how much later remakes refined and expanded on what was already special without diminishing the original's impact. This is a game that understands exactly what it wanted to be and executes it with an amazing amount of confidence. Even now, it still grips me, it still unnerves me, and it still demands everyone's respect. Not because of what it became, but because of what it was right from the start. This game is a genuine landmark, a masterpiece forged from restriction, an icon that earned every bit of its legacy. Well, that is the review. Thank you very much, everybody who clicked on and watched all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to let me know what you guys think of the original Resident Evil down in the comments below. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you going to revisit it before the new Resident Evil 9 Requiem drops very soon? I'm really excited about that one. But that is going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much again for watching. I really do appreciate it. Look forward to more Resident Evil reviews on the channel very soon. But until then, may all your games be good ones, and I'll catch you guys next time.